prison. However, prosecutors made no such recommendation, simply concluding that the defendant should receive a substantial prison sentence. A report by the probation department recommended sentences of 14 to 17 years for each defendant. When this sentencing date comes, it's going to land like a bombshell. Some good news finally. Lending rates are beginning to drop. As of this morning, they've reached levels not seen since the credit crisis erupted in mid-September. The 3-month LIBOR rate dropped to 2.71% from 2.86% yesterday. This is the lowest rate it's been at since June 9th. It's also the first time it's sunk to a pre-credit crisis level since Lehman Brothers announced its bankruptcy. The overnight LIBOR rate fell for the seventh straight day to 0.38% from 0.39% yesterday. It was overnight LIBOR's lowest level since the British Bankers Association began calculating the rate in 1997. LIBOR is the daily average of what 16 different banks charge each other to lend dollars in the UK. Less than a month ago, at the height of the crisis, the overnight rate was at 6.88%. That might be one of the reasons the stock market is jumping today. One of the reasons the market is not jumping is the report from the U.S. automakers. Sales of new cars and trucks in America plummeted last month to levels not seen for 25 years. The stunning fall-off affected all car makers as consumer confidence and the inability of many car buyers to get loans drove sales down about 32% compared with the same period last year. The grim results, particularly for General Motors, which saw its sales drop by 45%, raised new concerns about the survival of Detroit's troubled Big Three. Some of the other estimates or some of the other numbers that came in show that Ford fell 30.2%, Chrysler by about 35%. The American car makers were not the only ones. Toyota's sales dropped 23% in October, while Honda's sales dropped 25%, and Nissan's sales fell by 33%. One thing that's clear this month is that absolutely no one is immune, said one analyst. 39 people were killed earlier this morning when a ferry boat capsized in the central Philippines. The boat was off the island of Masbate, pictured here. Had 119 people on board. It was capsized by a freak wind. As of right now, 39 people are confirmed dead. And in India, a little bit to the west obviously, a passenger bus rolled into a deep gorge near a North Indian skiing resort this morning, killing 45 people. The bus plunged 650 feet into a gorge near Kufri, which is about 200 miles north of New Delhi. The bus driver was among the dead. 44 people died on the spot. It's estimated that others will also end up perishing because they're in very critical condition in the hospital. Now, a final story. An American couple has traveled 9,300 miles from Bangalore, India, to vote. They showed up here today. For nearly a month, Susan Scott Kerr and her husband had been waiting for their New York State absentee ballots to arrive in India, where Ms. Kerr has been working since the summer. This is all reported by the New York Times. A week ago, they realized that even if the ballots arrived before the election, they had almost no chance of getting them back in time to be counted. They'd already contacted the American consulate, and they'd looked into hiring a round-trip courier service. Finally, yesterday, she and her husband caught a flight from Bangalore to New Delhi, which is about 1,100 miles. The next leg of the journey took them to Chicago, which was another 7,500 miles. They then cleared immigration at O'Hare and traveled the last 700 miles to O'Hare. Their journey of 9,300 miles had taken 22 hours. When all their expenses are counted, their trip will have cost them about $5,000. Ms. Scott Kerr is a native of New Zealand, and her husband, who was born in Morocco, said they intend to cast their votes on Tuesday in the Washington Heights section of Manhattan. It will be the first time they voted ever. They both became American citizens in November of last year. Ms. Scott Kerr said, "We lived here for 13 years on green cards. We paid lots of tax money, but you have no voice within the system, so we became citizens so we could vote." A few months after they were sworn in as citizens, she was transferred to Bangalore by her employer. She works for Accenture, the management consulting firm. She and her husband flew in, and they're voting today, and they're going to be flying back tomorrow. Who are they voting for? Well, of course, the New York Times asked that. She and her husband are determined to both vote for Senator Barack Obama and Senator Joe Biden. There's Senator Obama now. Last night, Senator Obama spoke to a rally in Manassas, Virginia, which is in the Washington, D.C. suburbs. There were 80,000 people present. It's a bittersweet day for Senator Obama. His grandmother passed away. This was the woman he had gone to visit 2 weeks ago out in Hawaii. Gracious to a fault, and I mean that seriously, Senator McCain and his wife issued a statement expressing their condolences to Senator Obama. Anyway, tomorrow it'll be finished, finally, and we will have a president-elect of the United States. And just in case you forgot, we do have a president. He's not seen or heard of frequently, but he's still there, George W. Bush. He's keeping a very low profile. But I'm sure we'll be hearing more from him at some point in the next 90 days. That's all the news that we have. If we have anything breaking, we'll come back and tell you. In the meantime, if you're in the U.S. and you're registered to vote, make sure you go vote. If not, we'll see you tomorrow. Thank you.